Hey guys, it's Neon. Welcome back to Clownfish TV. We're going to talk about the video game industry, and we're going to talk about the blame game around, gamers. That the media always blames the gamers for everything. That they seem to waffle on a position against or for gamers, depending on the political climate at the time. And we've seen them flip-flop so many times. Sometimes, gamers need to be reined in. They're toxic. They're awful people. They create, horrific events in real life, and other times gamers are great. Why are you demonizing gamers? Again, it depends on what the political motivation is, and, I'm getting tired of it. I'm tired of pop culture being either blamed for everything or, pop culture being used as a weapon against people. I mean, look, people do horrendous things. People do horrendous things to each other, but that doesn't mean that it's coming from video games. It doesn't mean it's coming from movies. Some people are just completely screwed up. So, of course, we're talking about the recent shootings. And now a lot of the publications that were anti-gamer are suddenly pro-gamer. Because President Trump said that, some video games are too violent. Because he said that, now, all of a sudden, all the anti-Trump media outlets are all like, gamers are great. These are the same outlets that were attacking gamers and have been attacking gamers for years. For years. Suddenly, they're doing a 180 because it's to their advantage to do so. And I think that's pretty disgusting, again, to use a tragedy like this for, political points. I hate this. I hate that they do this. Just to give you an example. The Washington Post, right? A very, very anti-Trump publication, looking like they're defending gamers. Politicians suggest video games are to blame for the El Paso shooting. It's an old claim that's not backed by research. Okay, that's pretty reasonable. That's what a lot of gamers have been saying for a while. But just, earlier in the year, racism, misogyny, death threats. Why can't the booming video game industry curb toxicity? Which is it, Washington Post? Which is it? This is anger inducing, because you're using tragedy and using gamers to score political points, and you're basically going to do a 180 from whatever conservatives say, and this has been going on forever. But look, Deadline even, now they're mocking Trump for saying that games create a culture of violence, when the publications who are anti-Trump have been saying this for years. Where do you think Gamergate came from? Where do you think all of this backlash against the media, from gamers, where do you think this came from? It's because they were constantly attacked by publications like the Washington Post, the New York Times, numerous gaming journalists at Polygon, etc., etc. Now, because Trump says it, now it's fashionable to do a 180 on your opinions. And using a tragedy like this to flip-flop on your opinions is trash. I mean, this has been going on forever. 1993, of course, with Mortal Kombat and Night Trap. That was a big kerfuffle, and I remember that because I was in school when that happened. I remember watching the news, and they're like, "Oh my God, they're having hearings over Mortal Kombat." Does anybody really think that a kid's going to go out and try to rip another kid's head off because of freaking Mortal Kombat? I thought it was stupid then. And I still think it's stupid now. But, Mortal Kombat, I just want to point out, the people who pushed for censorship and a rating system back then were liberals, were Democrats, that they wanted to censor video games back then. Here we are 30 years later, 25 years later, and we're still having this conversation about games. Obviously, horrifying things like the Columbine shooting, tied to Doom. Again, this is nothing new. This has been going on forever. It's always sensationalistic. It's always for clicks. It's always to start a conversation about bigger issues. And I understand that, but it's like, why do they always blame games? Why do they always blame gamers? And now publications like the New York Times, who've done hit pieces before on gamers, want to use gamers to their advantage. They want to use gamers to their advantage to open up a discussion about gun control. You know, I mean, this is ridiculous. Politicians, again, blame video games for shootings despite evidence. It should be publications like the New York Times blame video games and gamers for toxicity despite evidence. Again, the same New York Times that is defending gamers this week has had articles like it's time to make video games safe for children. Video games, streaming sites, and esports are plagued with trolls. New York Times just, last month, confronting toxicity in gaming, going beyond mute. The Times is constantly attacking gamers, constantly calling them trolls and misogynists and racists, and now they're going to use gamers. The same gamers that they've attacked, they're going to defend them. They're going to defend them to use them for as political chess pieces. You know, I mean, come on, this is horrible. Just because Donald Trump said that, you know, he came out against video games, gruesome and grisly video games, he came out against that. So just because of that now, the New York Times, since they consider Trump a political enemy, they do a flip-flop, and now all of a sudden gamers are great people. They're great people. They were trolls last week, but now that Trump's attacking them, now they're great. And what is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know, and we're creeping up on an election year. So I'm just really disgusted by this. I mean, this is a horrible, horrible tragedy. Again, I mean, it happens much too often. But, you know, to see how dishonest the media actually is, that they actually are using gamers like this as chess pieces, you know, in some political bullshit. And I guess, you know, I'm hoping that gamers don't fall for this. It's like, you do realize just last week that you guys were the devil. You know, gamers were the devil, right? But now, because Trump said something about games being toxic, now all of a sudden you're great. You're great. They're trying to sway you over to their side. And it's just like, God, make up your freaking mind. Make up your minds. Again, you know, I don't think tragedies like this should ever be tied to video games, you know, because I don't think there's been any proof, you know, just because somebody played a game that caused a horrific act of violence. I don't think there's ever been any proof of that. You know, there's so many people. Gaming is eclipsing movies now in terms of popularity. So many people play video games compared to people who participate in shootings and other acts of violence and terrorism. You know, it's ridiculous. But now they're saying, you know, about Trump's words and how, you know, the studies, these supposed studies, confirm that video games are behind some of the violence. Armed with little and often unconvincing evidence, politicians have blamed violence on video games for decades. This is true. The rhetoric quickly ramped up in the 90s after games like Wolfenstein 3D and Doom popularized the genre of violent first-person shooting games. Since then, games have been blamed for shootings at Columbine, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and many others. And again, outlets like the New York Times stoke the fires. And now you're pretending like you're going to defend the honor of gamers. And I just really hope people don't fall for this. I really hope they don't fall for this. Video games are not to blame. And this is 100% true. They never have been. So you need to take back, journalists, if you want to win back gamers, like all the attacks against gamers during Gamergate and all of that. It's like you've been blaming gamers for years. You've been blaming them for freaking everything. And now you want to win them over because you want them to be political allies. So stupid. It's so stupid. When they talk about, you know, censorship, and the censorship actually came from the left, came from Democrats that were trying to censor video games back in the 90s. You know, I just, it blows my mind. I can't believe that these outlets did a complete 180 like that just because Trump said something that they've been saying for years. But it shouldn't surprise me. It shouldn't surprise me at all. So I'm going to wrap this one up. This is a very different video than what I expected to be doing this morning, but it's very disgusting to see tragedy like this being used to manipulate the gaming community like this. You know, it's gross. It's really, really gross. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.